ADR. Promoting dialogue.
Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's President Mahama to deliver maiden State of the Nation address tomorrow as MPs call for sincerity.
The president has already described the economy as a crime scene. So I'm expecting the president to tell us the macroeconomic indicators. Where are we now? And then we all know the biggest challenge facing this country is youth unemployment.
Opposition in Guinea-Bissau vows to paralyze the country on Thursday in election time in roar. Health professionals in Senegal begin warning strike as the state readies to host a dialogue to address social issues.
The situation is difficult for everyone. For workers, life is expensive. So the world's concerns are there, and rights are sometimes violated. And we saw waves of redundancies, situations that deserved to be raised. And that's what we did.
And the House of Representatives in Liberia elects new representatives to the ECOWAS Parliament. Details of these and more are coming up shortly.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners within and beyond the sub-region. Let's begin in Ghana, where President John Dramani Mahama will deliver his first message on the State of the Nation on Thursday, during which he is expected to tell Ghanaians and the global community the true state of affairs in all sectors of the economy. The weaknesses and strengths inherited will inform the responses and measures the president and his government will spell out, with the solutions grounded in what his party has already promised to do in reviving and growing the economy. As he delivers his first State of the Nation address, a constitutional requirement that promises to be a defining moment for his historic second-term administration, President Mahama would major on and delve deeply into the current economic situation, what his administration inherited, and the plans moving forward to ensure economic revival. Ahead of tomorrow, Member of Parliament representing Tain constituency in the Bono region, Adama Sulemana, has urged the president to be sincere in his speech.
I'm expecting the president to tomorrow tell us what the current state of our economy is, and then the plans to get out of the doldrums. The president has already described the economy as a crime scene. So I'm expecting the president to tell us the macroeconomic indicators. Where are we now? And then we all know the biggest challenge facing this country is youth unemployment. What are the pathways to get out of youth unemployment? How is the 24-hour economy going to dovetail into the employment creation? So 1, plans about employment creation. 2, how to stabilize the macroeconomic stability. 3, how to bridge the gap, the financing gap, especially in health. So these are the things that I'm expecting the president to do. He should also tell us the challenges that we are facing in the energy sector, how we are going to go out. We also want to find out from the president, how are the numbers suddenly from the free senior high changing from 3.5 million to 5.7 million. We want to find out what the challenges are. We want to also find out from the president how the security situations in the country is. We see the threats of terrorism all around us. Internal security, external security, how is it going to turn out? Actually, we are expecting the president to tell us the blueprint for the next year and the 3 beyond.
Adaman Sulemana is the Member of Parliament representing Tain constituency in the Bono region of Ghana. Elsewhere, the opposition in Guinea-Bissau has vowed to bring the country to a standstill on Thursday in a dispute over when the 5-year mandate of President Umaro Sissoco Embalo expires. Opposition leaders say Embalo's term runs out on Thursday, while Guinea-Bissau's Supreme Court of Justice has ruled that it ends on September 4. Imo Edit has more details in this report.
Recall Embalo said on Sunday that the presidential and legislative elections would not be held until November 30, heightening tensions over the electoral calendar that risk unrest in a nation with a history of military coups. However, in a statement by Pai Hetera-Ranka coalition led by the former ruling PIGC party and the Kabas Garande coalition, they are going to paralyze the country completely on February 27. Parliamentary elections scheduled for November 2024 were indefinitely postponed by the government, which cited technical and financial obstacles scrambling the electoral calendar. Mbalo, a 52-year-old former army general, inherited a long-running political impasse in a country where coups and unrest have been common since independence from Portugal in 1974. It said there have been 2 attempts to overthrow him during his presidency, the latest in December 2023. Mbalo dissolved the opposition-controlled parliament after that last incident, which involved gunfire and clashes in the capital, accusing it of passivity. The sub-region's bloc ECOWAS is in Bissau to try to resolve the dispute over the political calendar. However, the opposition so far has refused to meet with ECOWAS representatives during this visit, accusing the mission of bias.
Imo edit with that report. Meanwhile, Guinea-Bissau President Umaro Sissoco Embalo was hosted in Kremlin by President Vladimir Putin for talks on Wednesday, the latest sign of a drive by Moscow to build up economic and security relationships with countries in West and Central Africa. State TV showed Russian Metal Stakon Oleg Deripaska was present at the talks between the two leaders. Russian and Portuguese news outlets have quoted a Guinea-Bissau minister as saying Russian aluminium company Rusal is interested in building a railway and port in the country and exploring for bauxite. Russia has built security ties in recent years with a series of African countries, sending thousands of mercenaries to support military leaders and help them fight insurgents. It was not clear if any such deals were on the agenda for Wednesday's meeting. In Burkina Faso, a high court handed down 3 life sentences Tuesday in connection with the 2018 terrorist attacks on the French embassy and the military headquarters in Ouagadougou. Christopher Atichu has more details in this report.
8 people were on trial for their roles in the attacks, which killed 8 people and injured 85. The court found 3 of the defendants guilty of terrorism and murder and sentenced them to life in prison. 2 other defendants were acquitted, and the remaining 3 were given prison sentences ranging from 10 years to 15 years. The attacks were carried out by a group that claimed allegiance to Al-Qaeda. The attackers detonated a car bomb outside the French embassy and then attacked the military headquarters with guns and grenades. The trial of the 8 defendants began on January 2025. During the trial, the defendants admitted their involvement in the attacks. Some of the defendants apologized for their actions, while others denied their involvement. The court verdict was met with mixed reactions from the public. Some praised the decision as a step towards justice, while others criticized it for not being harsh enough. The trial has brought attention to the ongoing threat of terrorism in the region and the need for continued vigilance. The court found the 3 defendants who were sentenced to life in prison to be the masterminds of the attacks. The other defendants were found guilty of providing support to the attackers. However, the French embassy is yet to comment on the verdict. Meanwhile, the convicted defendants are expected to appeal the court's decision, prolonging the legal process.
Christopher Teacher reporting there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The 15th edition of the Trade Union Forum of the International Trade Union Confederation Africa region continues this Wednesday. It opened on Tuesday in the seaside town of Grand-Bassam and ends on Friday. This edition takes place around the theme Employability, Living Wage, Peace and Economic Transformation for Social Justice in Africa. The Ivorian Prime Minister Robert Bigwe Mambe, who is chairing the meeting, encouraged the trade unionists to continue their commitment to constructive social dialogue, a guarantee of economic and social progress. Here are the details of Albin Aded's report, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
During this meeting, stakeholders from more than 40 countries will reflect on the challenges facing the labor sector. It is also a question of identifying concrete solutions and pragmatic alternatives for a fairer and more prosperous future for African workers. For the Ivorian Prime Minister, Robert Mambe, it is important to celebrate the workers. He says, "It is from the workers who leave the spirit of productivity, the spirit of results, the spirit of victory, and it is from the workers that we draw our energies to consolidate the progress of our various countries." President Alassane Ouattara has instructed that social dialogue will lead to the social truce, which is a result of the intelligence of our trade unionists, and President Alassane's desire to give Côte d'Ivoire the chance to be a country of prosperity. We would like to pay special tribute to all these unions because it is thanks to them that the social truce has been able to be celebrated in our country for several years. In Côte d'Ivoire, many initiatives are underway to improve workers' conditions. Adama Kamara is Ivorian Minister of Employment and Social Protection. He says, Côte d'Ivoire has undertaken several initiatives that could serve as an example. Among other things, the regular increase in the minimum wage, which has gone from 36,000 to 60,000 CFA francs, then to 75,000 CFA francs in 2023. We must work together, the government, trade unions, employers and civil society, to establish a permanent framework for consultation. On the trade unionist side, a continuation of initiatives in favor of workers is desired. However, the increase in the power of social dialogue is welcomed. At the end of these reflections, proposals will be made for decent work and social justice in Africa.
Abdoulaye Hassan with the details of Alben Adet's report from Côte d'Ivoire. Meanwhile, Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara on Wednesday called for the strengthening of artificial intelligence infrastructure in the country. This call follows the outcome of the country's participation in the Summit for Action on Artificial Intelligence held from February 10 to the 11, 2025 in Paris, France. Nadia Detete has more details in this report.
According to Amadou Coulibaly, government spokesperson, Côte d'Ivoire has signed the Paris Declaration on Open, Inclusive and Sustainable Artificial Intelligence for the times and the planet. This membership opens the way to several strategic perspectives for the country, including the strengthening of artificial intelligence infrastructures. This program aims to integrate Côte d'Ivoire into international initiatives for the development of high-performance computing centers with the support of the French Development Agency, AFD, and the World Bank. Furthermore, the government intends to establish a regulatory framework promoting ethical and secure artificial intelligence by adapting international standards to Ivorian specificities. This initiative will be carried out in partnership with UNESCO, Smart Africa, and other international organizations. According to Coulibaly, this dynamic opens up opportunities for Ivorian startups and young talents, as it will facilitate their access to investment funds and artificial intelligence incubation programs.
Now, with that report, in Nigeria, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kari, has credited the recent decline in food prices to the government's intervention in the agricultural sector. He said the 200 billion naira initiative launched by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had boosted the food supply, easing costs for consumers. Usma Umra reports.
Speaking at the Nigeria-Kazakhstan Business Conference, Senator Kari urged food processors to pass on the benefits of lower prices to the public, emphasizing the need for fair pricing in the supply chain. The bilateral forum, aimed at fostering trade and investment between Nigeria and Kazakhstan, attracted high-level delegations from both nations and focused on key sectors including agriculture, commodities exchange and diplomatic relations. Senator Kari speaks on Nigeria's expectations from the forum.
We're also seeking for them to come and invest in Nigeria, but at the same time we also seek to partner with them so that we can derive whatever foreign exchange opportunities that there are in their country.
The event's convener, His Royal Highness Oba Adeye Ogunwusi Ojaja II, the Oni of Ife and chairman of the Nigeria-Kazakhstan Business Council, praised President Tinubu's economic reforms. He noted that these measures were already yielding results, citing a reported 40% reduction in food prices.
Pain has been enormous, we know, but this is now the time for us to be seeing the result. And you can see what has happened between the largest economy in Central Asia, which is Kazakhstan, and the largest economy in the whole of the continent of Africa.
Leading the Kazakhstan delegation, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Alibek Kwantirov, acknowledged the Oni of Ife's role in fostering the partnership and highlighted the potential benefits for young entrepreneurs and businesses in both countries.
It's a mutual benefit. We can help each other in the ICT sector. And we already have a number of Nigerian students studying in Kazakhstan who got the scholarship. And I think with all this knowledge that they are getting, they will be going to launch them and implement this knowledge on the Nigerian market, in the Nigerian economy.
The conference featured expert discussions on trade policies, investment opportunities, and strategies to enhance food security through global cooperation. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's President Mahama to deliver maiden State of the Nation address tomorrow as MPs call for sincerity. Opposition in Guinea-Bissau vows to paralyze the country on Thursday in election timing roar. Health professionals in Senegal begin warning strike as the state readies to host a dialogue to address social issues. House of Representatives in Liberia elects new representatives to the ECOWAS Parliament. We also have the guest interview and the sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. Let's now take you to Benin, where President Patrice Talon has met with members of the steering committee for the audit of the computerized electoral list. The meeting at the Marina Palace was an opportunity for President Talon to reaffirm his committee's mission and make firm recommendation. Atisu reports.
The Electoral Register steering team is made up of members of civil society and governance experts, including Jean-Baptiste Elias, Gustave Assa, Mudasiru Bachabi, Michel Alokbo, and Kasimu Chabi. In a speech, President Patrice Talon urged them to remain neutral during their mission. For him, the audit of the list must be carried out in a very objective manner and outside the scope of any partisan influence. He added that the audit should hardly be perceived as a questioning of the electoral code or the holding of a national meeting.
In general, any end of a mission generates a renewed sense of virtue, a renewed commitment to the service of good in an absolute way. This approach is to be applauded. It's a form of civilian support, and as you know, I'm always enthusiastic about anything that's in our common interest, so you can count on my enthusiasm.
The meeting provided an opportunity for a direct exchange of views on the modalities of the audit and the guarantees of independence of the experts involved. Jean-Baptiste Elias is the chairman of the steering committee for the audit of the Electoral Register.
This is technical, scientific work that has nothing to do with political connotations.
The meeting between the steering committee and the head of state follows the decision by the Council of Ministers on Wednesday, February 19, to grant a sum of 159 million CFA francs for the audit of the Electoral Register.
A report by our Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Souley and voiced by Atisu. Here in Senegal, the Autonomous Union of Health Workers embarks on a nationwide strike beginning today, February 26. The industrial action comes on the heels of the social dialogue by the state scheduled for Thursday, February 27. The meeting, to be chaired by Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, aims to find lasting solutions to socio-economic challenges the country faces. The dialogue, announced last Friday by Ousmane Sonko at the National Assembly, was welcomed by the country's trade union centers. In Liberia, the House of Representatives on Tuesday elected new delegates to the ECOWAS Parliament, signaling a change in the country's legislative leadership at the regional level. This decision comes in the wake of the recall of the previous representatives who were removed due to controversies surrounding their selection process and adherence to ECOWAS protocols. As WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports, this election aligns with Article 18 of the ECOWAS protocols.
The push for a change in representation was initiated by Representatives James Collette of Bond County and Johnson Williams of River G County, raising concerns about the previous appointments. They criticized the process as lacking transparency and proper consultation under the leadership of the embattled Speaker Fonanti Kofa.
Article 18A says representatives shall be elected by direct universal sovereign.
The newly elected members, Augustine Chelo from the ruling Unity Party, Samson Weah of the Opposition Congress for Democratic Change, and Wema Briggs Mensah, an independent candidate who retains her position. In response to their election, the new representatives pledged to ensure Liberia's presence and influence within the ECOWAS Parliament.
Regional peace, regional integration, regional economy. So that's the vision we are taking to the ECOWAS.
We stand for democracy, and that's what happened here.
When asked about the decision to replace the former representatives, Senator Edwin Melvin Snow, head of the Liberian delegation to ECOWAS, deemed the House's action as impossible, expressing doubts about the future of these changes.
Protocol at the ECOWAS Parliament is different. Recording of members is not as easy as you think it is.
If the House's decision is upheld, the new representatives will succeed Representatives Samuel Ennis and Ta Wangwe. In Monrovia, reporting for Newslink, April and Parker on WADR.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest tonight is an expert on narcotics and former spokesperson of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. He speaks on the country's fight against drug and substance abuse. Michael Gipley also speaks about the dangers of drug abuse, particularly Kuch, a type of synthetic drug now prevalent in countries of the Mana River Union and beyond.
So when Kuch entered Liberia, unknowingly, the young folks who resulted into taking it, there were a lot of, difficult situations recorded where a lot of young people lost their life owing to its potency, and some of them were near insane, and why the vast majority struggle to get used to the potency or the resistance of the drug, and to the extent where a lot of young people are falling prey. And I can tell you that alone have increased the number of drug users in our country, and of course it has also created a kind of challenge where security are nearly overwhelmed, especially when it comes to the issue of drug abuse, and that is owing to the many challenges state security continue to face, especially the LDA, which is the nation's lead institution responsible to control the fight against drug abuse in our country.
Well, can you speak to the multi-sectoral approach in the fight against drug abuse, in particular, Kush?
Definitely. I think the multi-sectorial approach in the fight against this menace has elevated, the core, has also elevated the fight. I can remember when I once served as a spokesperson of the LDA in 2020, we began the quest of ensuring, a kind of robust drug law that will address the practical realities of our drug situation in our country. And during this period, we had a lot of collaborations from both national and international partners that saw the amendment of our nation's drug law that now addresses the practical reality when it comes to the offenses of drug crime in our country, incarceration, and other referral approaches to deal with the issue, especially with respect to people who are dependent on drugs. And that sectorial approach, I saw the Ministry of Health aligning with the LDA, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the Ministry of Gender, the Governance Commission, and even ECOWAS, and equally supported by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, where several multi-sectorial dialogue were organized and people came out with expert opinion and derived a kind of national approach that was geared towards tackling the fight conclusively and collaboratively in dealing with these situations. Why it's true that, on the other hand, we are radical and very critical on enforcement.
You've talked about the multi-sectoral approach to tackling the drug menace in Liberia, which I think applies in countries of the Mana River Union. But one question remains: what is it that really pushes young people to drug and substance abuse?
So The history of drug abuse in our country has dated as far back as even before, the political insurrections owing to several years. So again, in our society here, unlike others, maybe as a result of poverty could be one factor, peer pressure could be another factor, and of course the devastating experience of our 14 years of political instability could also be one of the beginning factor for young people indulging into drug activities in our country.
Now, how can national governments address the issue of drug and substance abuse, be it kush or any other type of drug?
I feel and think that the approach towards the fight against drug abuse is holistic and inclusive, which would include the increase in manpower, the number of manpower recruited in the institutions to fight drugs, the number of support that the institution have to its disposal, and of course the political will. We also need to commensurate that with a strong legislation, which we already have. But again, around the world, there's nowhere you fight drugs without money. So when you want to deal with the fight against drug abuse, it means all hands needs to be on deck.
Michael Gipley is an expert on narcotics and former spokesperson of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Up next is sports with Sankule Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Flying Eagles of Nigeria have landed in Abidjan ahead of their friendlies against Cote d'Ivoire. The 7-time African champions will take on their Ivorian counterparts at the Stade Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium in the Ivorian capital on Wednesday. Both teams will clash on Friday at the same venue according to media reports. Elsewhere, Nigeria international Victor Osimhen is a doubt for Nigeria's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier in March after sustaining an injury. The Super Eagles will take on Rwanda and Zimbabwe for their place in the World Cup in 2026. Osimhen was substituted in the 89th minute during his club side Galatasaray's league game on Monday, and club doctor confirmed the Nigerian forward got injured. And Assane Diao has pledged his allegiance to Senegal following his commitment to the Terang Lions. Diao was the subject of scrambles among many European countries, including Spain and Italy, but the common forward has been included in Senegal's upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. The Senegalese-born Diao is also eligible to play for Spain, where his family moved to since he was 3. Despite representing Spain at all youth categories, Diao has opted to represent Senegal at the senior level. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo Diouf and Umu Danyogo for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via hot